Welcome everyone. We're going to do a quick fix on this International Model 472 backhoe. This was mine when I was little. And as you can see, there's a few broken pieces on here, and that's what we want to fix. This dug a lot of ditches back in the day for me, and as you can see, it's broken the casting, which is actually very common on this model because there's a lot of stress that gets put on those 2 points right there, as you can see. Also, this hydraulic cylinder is broken in half, and that's pretty common too because it gets stuck in there and breaks in half. So let's take that backhoe part off, and we just take this push nut off, just destroy it, whatever you have to do to take it off of there. And now we can see more of the extent of the damage here. And I have that broken piece, but I got a little fix that we're going to use. It is this quick steel epoxy putty. It's a 2-part. You just knead it together like I'm doing right here. And the 2 parts start activating. And then you have roughly 10 minutes of work time before it really starts to get hard and you can't move it anymore. So what I'm doing here is just molding it into place and pushing it up in there. I want to fill as much as I can that whole cavity in there, and you're going to see why in a little bit after we use a screwdriver or any kind of device or tool to kind of push it up in there, add a little bit, put some in the top, push it down in there. We want to fill that cavity entirely because we want to add a lot more support for when this cures, and we're going to drill it out and it'll be as good as new and be back into playable condition, which is what the goal of this project is. And as this stuff hardens, you can kind of form it as you go. Now we need to take apart the backhoe part, and you can see I've ground off a little bit of the rivet, and we're just going to take a center punch and punch it out. We need to take this part out so we can then grind the other rivets and then take the 2 halves apart. And you can see this little curved sprung washer is what provides the friction to allow the backhoe to go up and down and not just fall down. Using a little grinding stone here on a Dremel tool just to grind off the heads of those, pound them out so we can get to that hydraulic arm that we need to fix. And this is how it works. It just is cast into a little groove, slides up and down as it moves. It's pretty ingenious. Now what I'm doing here is I'm drilling some pilot holes, and I'm going to pin the 2 pieces together. So I'm drilling holes in both parts. This is the part that has the bucket on it, and then I'll drill out the other part, and we'll use some epoxy and a pin to pin it together. And I forgot to film that exact part, but here is when I got the epoxy just together. And after the epoxy sets, it's a 5-minute epoxy, and it's now very strong. And we're ready to start putting it back together. We sandwich that piece in there, and then put the parts back together, and line it all up. Now I'm just going to use some machine screws right now because at a later date I'm going to do a full restoration on it, and I'm just going to have to take this apart, so I don't want to use rivets at this point. When we do the full restoration sometime in the future, and you'll see that on this channel, we'll go back with rivets like the factory. But in this case, just to get it back in working order so it can get back into that sandbox, digging ditches for my son, I'm just going to use some bolts and some nylock lock nuts. And same deal with that. I'll save that rivet because I might be able to reuse it. While we finish putting this back together, here is what a brand new one looked like in the box. Okay, as I stated earlier, we're going to drill the hole through this epoxy putty, which has now fully hardened. And you can actually machine this stuff and tap it. It's that hard. It's almost like steel. And because we filled that whole cavity, it's going to provide a lot of support. It's also grindable or sandable here, and as that you can see, I'm grinding off the excess here and just kind of shaping it in the rough shape of how the original casting will be. When we do the full restoration, we'll probably do a lot nicer, cleaner job. We'll get some fine sandpaper and make it really smooth. And we just put the pin back in, get it situated in there. As you can see, I've made it kind of a snug fit, which is what we want. And now it turns, it spins around. There's very little play in that pin. And so this should be nearly a lifelong fix. And even if it does break, it's easily fixable again. And here's the finished product. It works. Everything back together. We can go dig some ditches with it. My son can now play with it. And it's then ready for tear down for a full restoration sometime in the future. I appreciate you guys watching. Subscribe, like this video, share it around, check out my website, and thanks for watching.